my goal is to help you have a better studio to do what it is that you need to do for your clients and in your line of work. So that's how we're going to do this. And we're going to jump in right now. Hang tight, buckle up, take notes. And I'm just looking forward to having this time together. So here we go. All right. First thing I want to do is I need to get to know you. Now, everyone just introduce themselves, but use the chat window if you would. How many years have you been connected to NSA? You know, how many years have you been a member or part of the chapter? Put it in the since 19, you can't count, Brian, so it's 97. Okay. All right. So Greg is 5, 24 years. Thank you. Now you can follow instructions. Bob, 1 year. Welcome. Kathy, 8. Elisa, 12. Carla, 25. Linda, 23. Holy cow. Brian, 4th year. Love that. Okay. Denise, 3. Awesome. Great. All right. So that just gives me a feel for that. And I love to know how long everyone's been involved. I love this organization. And as I shared on the onset, I've been a member for 28 years. It's you know, I started in the 3rd grade, and that just helps a little bit. So off we go. A few years ago, I was sitting in my office. It was this office right here, long before there was ever a camera or anything else. And the phone rang. And on the other end of the phone was a gentleman by the name of Sal. Now, Sal is CEO for an organization in Washington, D.C. I had worked for Sal before, and Sal wanted to book me to be his opening keynote speaker Friday, May 18th, 9 a.m. Not only that, he wanted to license my registered trademark, No More Excuses, the title of one of my books, to use as the theme for his entire conference. Now, you know, we love repeat business. We love when clients come back to us. They're honoring us. They said, in Brian's words, we didn't suck last time. You know, yeah, that's great when they come back and they want to use us again. And so, and then I'm doubly honored because he wanted my theme, my concept, No More Excuses, as the concept for the entire meeting. So I looked at my calendar, the date was available. We agreed on the terms. I sent him an agreement, which is a fancy word for a contract. And he filled out the agreement. He sent it back. He sent the deposit check, and all was right with the world for about 2 weeks. It was about 2 weeks later that I realized some of my personal dates had not migrated over to my professional calendar. And by not migrated over, I mean I had not taken the responsibility to make sure they got there. But it was silly little stuff. You know, it was the spring break family vacation to the mountains. It was our youngest daughter. We have a son and 3 girls. It was our youngest daughter, Allison's confirmation. And it was our middle daughter, Jackie's high school graduation. Now, yeah, usually you hear the wind being sucked out of the room when I say that one. Here's the deal. Jackie's graduation was Thursday night, May 17th, here in St. Louis, where I live. Okay, brief recap. I've got an opening keynote speech Friday morning, May 18th, 9 a.m. in Washington, D.C. I have a 7:30 start time graduation, and we all know how long those things go. And Thursday evening here in St. Louis. And the only way out of St. Louis after 7 o'clock at night is like on a donkey. I mean, there's just no way to get out of town. There are no flights. You know, TWA had long become American Airlines, and they had disbanded the hub, and now it's just slim pickings in the evening for sure. So I'm starting to think, what do I do? My immediate reaction, my immediate thought was call Sal. Now, Sal, you know, we have a relationship, we've done business together, and I figured, you know, he would understand. It's like, it's a 2-day conference. I could speak at noon on the first day, or I could open the second day, and everything would be fine with that. And so that's what I did. So I picked up the phone and I called Sal, and I get Sal on the phone and I talk to him and I go, Sal, and I start to give him my story. But before I could even get it out there, he said, Sam, whatever happened to No More Excuses? So I hung up the phone. I mean, what are we going to do? Now, here's the first point. We have to be careful what we put out there because it's going to come back on us. I'm telling you. Are you walking your talk? So now I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what do I do? What do I do? But I'm still 5 months out. Now, here's the thing. Time is the friend, is the ally of anyone that has to make a decision. In leadership, when we have time, we can make a great decision. And I had time, and so I thought about it. What are my options? That's it. What are my options? I'll go through the process. I teach this stuff. I should be able to live it. Okay, let's see. Well, I could wait till about 2 days before the program, and I could call Sal. And when I call Sal, I'll just be a little hoarse, and I'll tell him, he probably doesn't want me. Let me send someone else from my organization. They'll be amazing. And then I stop and I think, is that what the guy who talks about accountability should be thinking in this moment? No. So then I start thinking, and it hit me in that moment. Jackie is our third child. Now, for those of you that are third children, or fourth or fifth, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, Allison, our fourth child, she literally raised herself. I mean, the rules change. But, after I thought about it for a nanosecond, I realized that she might be our third child, but this is her first graduation. So I'm sitting there in angst. And it was at that moment that Renee walks up to me and asks me a simple question. She goes, Sam, who are you accountable to? Who are you accountable to? And I'm like, well, I'm accountable to the client. We have a relationship. They've signed an agreement, contract. They've sent us a deposit check. And we probably a spent deposit check at this point. But then I'm accountable to Jackie. Jackie, we have this amazing relationship. I've coached her select soccer and softball, but soccer from kindergarten all the way up through her senior year in high school. I would never want to do anything to jeopardize this relationship. It's her graduation. It means a lot to her. And Renee in that moment could see how frustrated I was. And she says, how about if I just take this off your shoulders? How about if I just deal with this? Give me 48 hours and I'll come back to you with an idea. And I'm like, yes, hallelujah, please do. Take it, run. And that's exactly what she did. And I forgot about it. I mean, I just took it off my plate, focused on what I needed to focus on, and let Renee deal with it. And 48 hours later, Renee comes back to me and she says, I've got it all figured out. Now, she had my attention at this point. She goes, if we take the entire check from the job in Washington, D.C., and we go with the low cost provider. Now, don't you always hate that term? Because I don't know about you, but when I'm selling my services, I do not want to hear that the client is going with the low cost provider. Different subject altogether. We can cover that another day. She says, if we go with a low cost provider, I can have a little plane waiting for you at the end of a runway after Jackie's graduation and use this private plane to fly you to Washington, D.C. I mean, what could go wrong with that? It sounded great. Let's do it. And that's exactly what happened. So at about 5:30 on Thursday, the 17th, the doors open at Queenie Park here in St. Louis, the building there, and everyone's flowing in, and we got to get those front row seats because, we want to get these great pictures of our kid graduating. And then about 9:30, Jackie's walking across the stage. But with a name like Silverstein, you expect it's going to be 9:30. But hey, I'm staying to the end. I am not leaving early. And the whole thing finishes. And then we get pictures. We get father-daughter pictures. We get family pictures. We do all that stuff. Then they whisk me off to Spirit of St. Louis Airport. And at 10:12, it's wheels up and I'm on my way to Washington, D.C. About 30 minutes into the flight, that little plane started to bounce around. And it was in that moment that I started to wonder, was it such a great idea to go with the low cost bidder? Yeah, but obviously things worked out. I'm here. And by 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm slipping between my lily whites in the hotel room in Washington, D.C. I get up the next day and deliver my speech. We face challenges all the time. We face challenges in our business. We face challenges in our personal lives. The key to be able to deal with those challenges is really to know, who are you accountable to? Who are you accountable to? So I want you to think. I want you to think about your organization. I want you to think about your life. And then I want you to use the chat window. And I would love to hear who you are accountable to. Just put it in the chat. Who are you accountable to? Right now, we're gonna look at this. I'm looking over here. I'm waiting for the chat here. The learners in my online bank training. Love that, Linda. Absolutely. So the clients and the clients of the clients possibly in that situation. Who else are you? My husband, the employees, the clients. Greg says, my family and my clients. Great. Brian, clients, family, volunteer colleagues. I love that. Okay. People entrusted to my care, whoever they may be in a given moment. Elisa, wonderful. Carla, first to me, to my coach, to my family, to my clients, to my business. Don says, everybody I deal with, family and friends, clients, everybody. My family and friends in my sphere. Okay, great. Love those answers. Let me ask you a different question. Who are you accountable for? Who are you accountable for? I'm looking back over here. Who are you accountable for? I see myself, my husband, dog. All right, Don. I mean, how's the dog going to get fed, right? Everyone. Okay, Ron, we can talk about that. Me, my company, myself, my family, my business, myself, the people whom I share the planet. Okay. Oh, we're thinking bigger than ourselves. What a novel concept. I love that. Yeah, me and my family. That would be my family and I, but that's okay. This isn't an English grammar class. Okay. Love it. Love it. All right. Here, let me make this just a little bit easier for you. And let's break this down just a little bit. All right, we're talking pivot, 3 big questions. Accountable to someone. They are responsible for some aspect of your well-being. They affect your life beyond a surface level. They are responsible for some aspect of your well-being. They affect your life beyond a surface level. Okay, so, you know, when you talk, if the employees, do they affect your life? Sure they do, absolutely. Family members, do they affect your life beyond a surface level? Sure, they do. But let's think about that deeper. You know, as a child growing up, I was accountable to my parents. Now, what did that mean? Well, they basically asked me to do 2 things. Keep your room clean and do your homework. And to put that in baseball analogy, I batted about a 175, okay? I mean, I was just scraping by. But, okay, that was, you know, what I was responsible for. But my accountability was to my parents. They affected my life beyond a surface level. Boy, did they. Okay, now, let's look at accountable for. What does it mean when we're accountable for? When you're accountable for someone, you are responsible for some aspect of another individual's well-being. You affect their life beyond a surface level. You affect their life beyond a surface level. So to come back to the analogy of my parents, you know, my mother is now 94. 2 weekends ago, we were in Atlanta celebrating her 94th birthday. And she lives in an independent living facility, but she has 24/7 care. We manage that. My wife makes sure that there's someone in the apartment all the time. My wife pays all of my mother's bills. My brother and his wife live in Atlanta where she is. They make sure that she has all the things that she needs, the physical things, food, toilet paper, all that kind of stuff, you know. And if she needs to see the doctor, they facilitate that. They make sure that happened. My brother spent more than one night in the hospital with her. I manage my mother's resources. Now, as a child, I was accountable to my parents. I was accountable to my mother. Now, as an adult, I'm accountable for my mother. The relationship has changed. And when you think about assets, oh my gosh, if I make an investment decision and I lose some money, let me tell you, I'm not happy. But that can't happen with my mother's money. You see, the relationship is now a stewardship relationship. Stewardship trumps ownership every time. So I need to ask you a question, and I want you to use the chat. And all you have to do is use the number keys, either the number 2 or the number 4. What carries a higher degree of responsibility, of importance, of significance? Accountable to or accountable for? What do you think? Put it in the chat. 2 or 4? 2 or 4? What is it going to be? 2. I see 2. 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. Absolutely. That's exactly right. See, here's the thing. When we're accountable to someone, it does not mean that we're accountable for them. Remember, I didn't ask you, what are you accountable for? Or what are you accountable to? I asked you, who are you accountable to? And who are you accountable for? And the reason, and we're going to talk about that, is that because we're responsible for things, but we're accountable to people. And being accountable for is that higher level. It's a stewardship. When you're accountable for someone, you're responsible for their well-being, their safety, their success. I forget who it was to mention their dog. Yeah, you're accountable for the dog. The dog doesn't eat if you don't put food in the bowl. I mean, come on. And if the dog's walking around kind of squirrely, you got to figure out something's wrong and we need to go to the vet. I've never seen a dog pop up in someone's lap and look at you in the face and go, Denise, I think it's time to go to the vet. That's not going to happen. So accountable to, accountable for. Right away, you see, as we frame this up, accountability can look different than what we thought it was. And understanding who we are accountable to in our life, professionally, personally, and who we're accountable for, changes how we see people, how we treat people, and it also will change the result that we get. Okay, so here, in this time that we have today, what do I want? I want you to think differently. I want you to think differently. I want you to ask different questions. Don't fall into the trap of thinking, oh, this would never work here. This would never work for me, or this would never work in my organization. Ask yourself, how do I apply what I'm learning in the moment to my life, to my business, to my community, to my family? Because when you ask those questions, you will get answers to that. And the other thing that I want you to do is I want you to see accountability differently. I want you to see accountability differently. I want to restructure it, reframe it so that you do see it differently, because then we can master it. The reason we struggle with accountability is because people don't understand what it is. You see, everything we've been told about accountability is wrong. Everything we've been told about accountability is wrong. Accountability is not a way of doing. I had this conversation yesterday afternoon with 2 consultants, and you could see they were struggling. Accountability is not a way of doing. It's not about getting stuff done. Accountability is a way of thinking. It's about how we think about people, because accountability is between people. Accountability isn't us as leaders trying to manipulate people to do more for us. Accountability is leadership, understanding that they're accountable to the people first and creating an environment that inspires people to want to be their best, to choose to be accountable. And when we as leaders see our people differently, we will treat them differently, we'll commit to them differently, and we will get a different result, because action always follows belief. When we change the way that we believe, how we think about the people around us, will change the way that we act and that we treat them. And that's when they change and we get a different result. So question really is then, what is accountability? What is accountability? And, you can look it up in the dictionary: an obligation or willingness to accept responsibility to account for one's actions. Don't write that down. Let me simplify it. Accountability is keeping your commitments to people. That's it. Accountability is keeping your commitments to people. There's always people involved. When a leader calls me up and says, I want you to come in and talk to my organization, we have an accountability problem, I want you to come in and help my people be accountable, I know several things. First of all, I know that the leader has a problem, because if the people aren't being accountable, the leader's not accountable. I also know that they have a relationship problem within the organization, because when people are involved, relationships are involved. Organizations that master relationship master accountability. Organizations that don't master relationships struggle with accountability all the time. So accountability is keeping your commitments to people. If people are involved, relationships are involved. Now, what's a commitment? Now, we seem to think we know what a commitment is, but I struggle sometimes. A commitment is no matter what. I mean, this is a stake in the ground moment. This isn't, well, you know, maybe if nothing better comes along. Last weekend, Brian and Karen were in St. Louis with Renee and I, and with 3 other couples. Brian didn't say, well, yeah, I'll be there if I don't get booked, or I'll be there if as long as I don't get tickets to the football game. Or now Karen might have said that, but that's a separate subject, and we're not going there today. But it was, I'll be there, period. It was a commitment. That's what it is. A commitment is no matter what. All right, now we're going to talk about more about commitments in a little bit. So accountability, keeping your commitments to people. A commitment is no matter what. Now this should be kind of interesting. Let's look at this picture. You look at this picture. I'm sitting in Frankfurt in the Lufthansa lounge, looking out the window. This is a great group for this. That plane right there that you see up close, it says Star Alliance. That's Lufthansa. They're part of Star Alliance, and so some of their planes say Star Alliance instead of Lufthansa. It says Lufthansa on the tail somewhere. Now you see right behind that plane, going from left to right, that's an Emirates. That's Emirates. Right behind the tail of the Star Alliance and the Emirates, facing away, you can't see it, but I was there, I saw it, is United Airlines. Right behind the nose of the Emirates plane, there's a plane with a red tail and a maple leaf, so we know that's Air Canada. And then back on the left side of the picture, the smaller jet with the red tail is EasyJet, which is a European low-cost commuter airline. Okay, you just got booked on a gig, and let's just say it's an easy 18-hour flight. Which one of these airlines would you want to fly on? Let's use put it down in the chat, if you would. Which airline do you want to fly on? I'm booking your ticket. I'm paying for it. Your client's paying for it. Okay, Emirates, big plane. Yeah, Emirates, not EasyJet. Okay, very good. Yeah. All right, sure. All right, why Emirates? Air Alaska. Yeah. Why Emirates? Why Emirates? Put it in the chat. Why Emirates? Reputation. Linda says reputation. Hey, Linda, have you ever flown Emirates? I think she's shaking her head. No. Okay. Linda says Emirates. She wants to fly Emirates, and she's never even flown it before. Okay. Emirates. All right. So here's the thing. All right. Why Emirates? Well, Emirates reputation. Reputation for what? Reputation for service. Okay. Service. Well, what is that? So people say, well, it's their people. Well, it's their people within a system. Here's the thing. There's 5 jets there. All those jets, they're made by 2 companies. All the jets are either made by Boeing or Airbus. The jet fuel on all 5 of those planes came from the same tank. The food, somebody has the concession at the airport. All the food is made by the same company. Now, different airlines order different food, but it all coming out of that same kitchen probably. And yet we choose Emirates over someone else because of the reputation, because of the people, because of the service within a culture. It's the culture that allows that to happen. Good people going to work for an organization with a bad culture do not operate at the same level as they used to. It's just the same as you can take someone into a really good culture and up their game. So briefly, culture. Culture. What's culture? Culture is what's accepted and repeated. Culture is what's accepted and repeated. And let me tell you something. Even for those of us who are solopreneurs, our organization has a culture. What's accepted and repeated? What's accepted and repeated in the way that we perform? What's accepted and repeated in the way we respond to a client? What's accepted and repeated in the way we present ourselves online from our virtual studio? Everything is part of the culture. And so even we have a culture. Now, there's two types of culture. There's either a culture by design or a culture by default. A culture by design is anything goes. A culture by default is one that, a culture by design is where you've designed it. A culture by default is where anything goes. So define it. How do we design the culture? We define the culture through our values. We model the culture to, if we have people in our organization, we model it to the other people in the organization. We teach the culture, we protect the culture, and ultimately we celebrate the culture. So there you go. Now you know everything there is to know about accountability, almost. The question is that I would ask at this point is, what kind of culture do you have in your organization? Do you have a culture by design or culture by default? Is your culture, even though you may be a solopreneur, is your culture something that you have thought about? And if you were to hire employee number 2, number 3, number 4, or even if you have 1099 people that are not technically employees, but they do significant work or they do work for your organization, do they understand what the culture is in your organization? Because when we bring someone on, they need to know what our values are. They need to align with our values, because that's how we define the culture. If they don't align, I can't bring them on even as a 1099, because ultimately they will, either through me or directly, connect in some way to our clients because of the service that they're providing. Okay, so in the short amount of time that we have left before we're getting to the fun stuff, I want to share something. Right before the pandemic, I had a call with a client. Now, what was unusual about this call was that it was the third call before a program. The third call. Now, normally I have one call with a client before a program. We talk about their organization, what are their goals, and I always ask, what does a home run look like? What is it? If for me to hit it out of the park, what does that look like? And almost always they say the same thing. And you probably hear the same thing as well. They say, they'll always say, motivate my people, which I find fascinating, because if a leader's not motivating their people, I think there's a problem. Why is that our responsibility? But that's, again, it's another subject for another day. But they'll usually say, and this one said, give my people 3 good ideas that they can implement. Give my people 3 good ideas that they can implement and leave them motivated. And I'm thinking, 3 ideas? Are you kidding me? We've been talking here for 20 minutes or so. Have I given you 3 ideas yet? Have I given you a little bit of content yet? I'd like to think there's a little content in my program. And so I'm thinking, of course, I'm going to give them 3 ideas. I'm going to give them 53 ideas, or, as Brian would say, 73 ideas. But, I'm going to give them content. And so I had 3 calls. Every time I end the call with the same question, every time they said the same thing, and find 78. I love that, Brian. We're upping our game. See, that's what it's about. How can we be better? 78 ideas. Now I'm inspired to improve what it is that I'm delivering. So 3 ideas. So this last call was a week before the program. And I stepped back and I said, if I was going to give them 3 ideas, what would they be? And I struggled with that. And so I literally prayed on this. What 3 ideas would be the 3 ideas that I should give them? And so the night I fly to Atlanta for this multinational company that's based out of Atlanta, and I'm checked into the hotel. And the night before the program, just as loud as day, right there in my ear, 3 questions were asked. I heard 3 questions. And 3 questions that I said, wow, this has to be what I talk about tomorrow. And now this is the only group I'll ever speak to that'll appreciate this. That night before the program, I wrote a new speech. Now, if you're like me, you know, that'd scare the kajibis out of you, because it sure did me. But I'm like, I cannot share these 3 questions, because this is what was given to me to share the next day. This is what I believe. Action follows belief. Accountability is keeping your commitments to people. Understanding what those commitments are is critical. It's only when you believe that you'll act on it. And so I created a program the next day, and I call this the 3 big questions. And I delivered a program the next day, and the place went nuts. Now, I'm not a work the room, get them to stand up, standing ovation kind of speaker. I'm a content speaker. This room went nuts. Now, I might not be the brightest bulb in the box, but I know when something's connecting to an audience. So what do? I come home and I do what I do. I write a book about it, and I build this into what I do moving forward. So I'm going to share these 3 big questions as we wrap this portion of our program. I want to share them with you because I want you to have the benefit, because I think these will impact your life. When you think about this, I think it'll make a significant impact on your life. So let's look at the 3 big questions. And the first one is, what do you believe? What do you believe? Now, a lot of times when I'm working with a client, I'll ask them, what do you value? What are the values of the organization? But come on, let's just get real with each other. It really boils down to, what do you believe? Now, when I ask that question, people go, well, what do I believe about what? I said, what do you believe about everything? What do you believe about yourself, your capabilities? What do you believe about your clients, your customers? What do you believe about your friends, your family? What do you believe about the community you live in? What do you believe about the leaders in the organizations that you work for, in our country, in the world? What do you believe? If we don't have an understanding of what it is that we believe, then what happens is we make decisions different every time. Action follows belief. When people act weird, they believe weird. When people are not consistent, it's because they don't have a thorough understanding of what they believe, and they don't connect back to it. So we need to know, what is the source of our belief? What do we believe? Beliefs are personal, inward facing, but to turn those outward facing, we put those into values. So what are the values that we say that we live our life by? And if we say we have values, do our actions line up? Because if our actions aren't lining up, those are not our values. What's our unique purpose, which is what brings us joy in the service of others? You're looking at it right here. This connects to my unique purpose, which is helping people be the best they can be, to discover their potential, be the best they can be. And then what's your mission? My mission is to build a more accountable world. Your mission is your purpose in action. So what do you believe? What do you believe your values are? What do you believe your unique purpose is? What do you believe your mission is? If we don't understand that, then we're not going to have the life that we were meant to have. We're not going to have the joy that we have the capability of having. We're not going to have the impact that we could be having. We have to take the time and work on ourselves first. We can't give what we don't have. So the first of the 3 big questions is, what do you believe? The second question is, what do you focus on? What do you focus on? And it's real simple. Do you focus on those things you can control, or do you focus on those things that you can't control? Because when we focus on what we can't control, that's when fear comes in. Oh, what if this happens? What if that happens? Well, why are we thinking that? Those are the areas we cannot control. When we focus on what we can control, we make decisions, we move forward. When we focus on what we can't control, we make excuses, we get bogged down. So in any given moment, in any challenge that you're faced with, stop, take a breath, and ask yourself, what can I control in this moment? We couldn't control the pandemic. That was beyond our control. What can we control? Well, this was what I could control. And so this is what enabled me to stay in business. For me, that's what I could control. So what can you control? What can't you control? I hear business people all the time. They go, oh, the economy's terrible. Business is down. I don't want to hear that crap. You can't control the economy. How come in a bad now, I will tell you, about 2 years ago, I said that to an audience once, and I got a blank stare back from 300 people in that audience. It was the Fed I was speaking to, the Fed board in Chicago. And I'm like, I saw the stare. It wasn't the usual response. And then I realized, and I said to them, you're the Fed. You can control the economy. I mean, it was like the one time I'm speaking to an audience where they could actually control the economy, but you and I can't control the economy. So some people excel in markets that are poor. Why is that? Well, it's because they're not focused on the fact that the economy's not good. They're focused on what can they do in this moment. Well, I'll make 10 more sales calls a day. I'll work an hour longer. I'll change the way that I market. What do you focus on? That's all within our control. And the third thing is, what do you commit to? What do you commit to? Now, you know what? Let's do this differently. I'm gonna step back from this. And the question is, what do you commit to? So we're going to go to a master's level of commitment here. And let me. All right. We're talking about commitment. Commitment. I'm going to break this down, and I want this to make sense. Okay. There's tactical commitments and relational commitments. There's two types of commitment, tactical and relational. And it's really important to understand that, because accountability is all about the relational commitments, okay? So, all right, Brian, if you slow down, Brian, you can write legibly. I believe in you. I just want you to know that, okay?
It's impossible. I write like a kindergartner.
Yeah, well, you could work on that. So, all right. Tactical, relational. Tactical are spoken. Denise, I'll be there at 9 o'clock on Saturday. That's a tactical commitment. It's spoken. It's agreed upon. It's transactional. See, Brian, you can't even read that. But it works. Just trust me, it works. Now, for everyone here, you need to know Brian and I had an in-depth call about this particular device last weekend, an in-depth conversation, I should say. So tactical commitments are spoken. They're transactional. They're agreed upon. We agreed that it was 9 o'clock. I'll have the sales report to you tomorrow at noon. I'll pick you up Friday at 8. I'll get you the agreement by Monday. I'll have the proposal done by Thursday afternoon. This is all tactical stuff. Let me tell you, if you're not doing the tactical stuff that you're supposed to be doing, you shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be working for a company. Why a leader lets someone stay that doesn't do the tactical stuff that they're supposed to do is beyond me. The leader should be fired. Separate conversation. Relational. They're unspoken. They're unspoken. And they contribute to the relationship. They're unspoken and they contribute to the relationship. So what's an example of a relational commitment? A relational commitment is a commitment to live the values. When a leader's living the values, he doesn't have to, or she doesn't have to tell everyone I'm going to live the values. The fact that you're saying they're the values, doggone it, means you should be living it. A commitment to the truth, a commitment to stand by you when all hell breaks loose, a commitment to it's all of us, which means if you fail, I fail, and only when you succeed do I succeed. Those are relational commitments. There's 10 of them that comprise what accountability is. We're not going into all 10 today, but I wanted you to get a feel for them. A leader never has to say, I have your back. All a leader has to do is have your back. If the leader always has your back, you know it. And then we respond differently in that moment. Now, here's the PhD level. When tactical commitments, when we keep them, when we have an improvement, increase in keeping our tactical commitments, it equals growth and productivity. Productivity is good. We need productivity, but it does not equal improved accountability. All right, but when we have an increase in relational commitments, that equals an increase in accountability. It's the relational commitments that connect to accountability. But wait, there's more. An increase in accountability will correlate or lead to an increase in productivity. All right. So, we'll come back. Heavy stuff, huh? So here's the deal. Accountability is about those relational commitments. It's about those relational commitments. All right. We're going to skip some of these slides so we can get to some of this other wonderful conversation that we want to get to. Let's see here. Okay. So we talked about accountability is keeping your commitments to people. And we said that accountability, what a commitment is no matter what, that accountability exists in a culture. You don't mandate accountability. Accountability isn't a gotcha. Accountability is empowering people. It's a positive thing. When I think about accountability, well, a few years back, I was getting ready to go speak to a client in Long Beach, California. Now, I bet you even in a group this size, there's people that have been to Long Beach, California. I'm never in a room. There weren't people in Long Beach, California. And before I went, I was talking with a friend of mine, and he said, you know, when you're in Long Beach, you should go out and you should visit the Queen Mary. It's docked there permanently, and it's a hotel, and they give these fantastic tours. Now, he knew my backstory, and so he thought I would enjoy that. And that's exactly what I did. I had a Sunday keynote. I got out there Saturday morning, walked down to the dock. It was a beautiful day, bought a ticket, went on the ship, and there's a little guy in period clothes, you know, dressed up as a steward, taking us all around. Now, from the dock, the ship was magnificent. And it was magnificent inside, but it's nothing like a cruise ship is today. I mean, you know, it was so much smaller back then. But you need to know that at one point, the Queen Mary was the fastest ship on the ocean, And he told us all about it and what it was like to go on to sail on it and the magnificence of it and what people wore and You know, you wouldn't believe this, but literally in the main promenade, there inside, there could be water in there. Water could have been splashing up in there. So women are wearing their mink coats and things like that, because back then that was popular and it was cold in the North Atlantic, but they weren't wearing good shoes because they could be walking through water. It's just an incredible story. And with every, you know, he actually told us that the Queen Mary and the Queen Elizabeth were credited with shortening World War II by as much as a year and a half because of all the troops that they were able to move from Canada, the United States, and Australia to the European front. And so what had happened was that in 1939, both Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth were converted from cruise ships to military transport. Now, what he didn't talk about that day is something that he didn't know about, was that prior to that, 1938 and 37, my mom was living in Stuttgart, Germany. And my mother lived through Kristallnacht, the night where all the glass was broken, buildings were burned, people were killed. And she was a survivor of that, as was her brother and her parents. And shortly after that, my grandfather realized that he needed to leave. And so he was able to smuggle my grandmother and his two children, my uncle and my mom, into Switzerland, but he got turned back at the Swiss border. And he was even being escorted by the Swiss consulate. He was connected. So then he tried to literally hike through the forest from Germany into Switzerland. And he was spotted by some SS men and they shot at him and he escaped. But he escaped on the wrong side. He didn't escape to the Swiss side. He was still in Germany. He literally ended up in hand-to-hand combat with one individual, fighting for his life. And on a third try with a forged passport that he forged himself, because someone gave him the ink and the papers necessary to do this with, he rode a train from Germany into Switzerland and to freedom, joined his family. Now, the next thing was Switzerland was still not a safe place. And so he smuggled his entire family across France, all the way to the West Coast to a small town called Cherbourg. Now, why is that important? Well, it's important because Queen Mary leaves out of Southampton, England, and sails across the North Atlantic to New York on most occasions. Every now and then it would drop down to a small town on the French coast called Cherbourg and pick up passengers and come across. And on one of the last of the transatlantic crossings in 1938, prior to the ship being converted to military transport, my mother, her brother, and her parents boarded that ship and sailed to freedom. Now, when I think about accountability, I think about my grandfather, because here's a gentleman who knows what he believes, he knows what to focus on, and he knows what to commit to. He brought his family to safety. His son went on to go to Emory University, get a degree, and ended up owning a radio station. My mom was one of the first women to graduate the business school at the University of Michigan. He led them to their potential, to be the best that they could be. He fulfills all the 10 commitments of accountability. Now, you also need to know that the first time I thought about my grandfather with regards to accountability, I said, well, that's personal. And then in a split second, it hit me. It's always personal. You see, the leader that says this is business, it's not personal, that leader doesn't get it. Every interaction between two human beings, even when it takes place in the confines of a business, is personal. Accountability is personal. It's a personal commitment from me as the leader to you. And only then do I have the right to think that you will accept the challenge to be accountable in return. Accountability is keeping your commitments to people. And when we as people decide that we are going to live out those 3 key questions, what do we believe? What do we focus on? What do we commit to? And we bring those into our life. That's when we bring accountability in. That's when we not only change our life, we change the lives of the people around us, either professionally or in our families, and ultimately in our community. My mission is to build a more accountable world. I want you to help me on that mission. Thank you for allowing me to be with you this morning.
All right, welcome back. We have, just under an hour, I guess, in round numbers. I know I would still like to talk about the content quite a bit. I'm fascinated by this new definition in my mind about accountability that Sam gave us. And we want to learn behind the scenes. I was also equally fascinated by how he did picture-in-picture in his interactive whiteboard, which I assume fascinated Brian Walter. And so let's hear that. Yes. Jazz hands. Sam, where are you? Let's come back and get the behind the scenes. Linda, do you want to say something? No, Jazz, that was one jazz hand. All right. Sam, come back and show us your studio in the basement. Show us how you built it. Answer the questions that our participants sent in ahead of time and the questions that we've now developed while we've been watching your genius in action.
Okay, will do. All right. Moving things around here on my screen. All right, so everyone can hear me.
Hey, Sam, can you increase your audio level just a little bit? It sounds like it dipped just a teeny bit.
Oh, how's that? Is that better?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate that. Okay.
Are you going to tell us what microphone you're using?
No, that's all top secret. Yeah, I'll
on a need to know basis.
I'll answer. Yeah, you need to know. I'll answer it. I'll tell you anything. I'll answer any of your questions. So first of all, I'm going to give you a link to all this stuff. Matter of fact, let me make life easy for you right now. Copy in the chat window.
You're supposed to use things instead of stuff.
I really don't care. Well, that didn't copy the link, so let's do it this way. Okay, there's a little link that if you click on that link, it's going to take you to, it's going to list everything. Let me tell you what's going to be in that link. What's going to be in that link is my equipment. What's going to be in that link, other equipment ideas and other places to go to learn more about this. So I'm going to show you what I have with the following understanding and the following agreement. Everyone raise their right hand, please. I understand. Repeat after me on mic. I understand.
I understand.
Sam is not trying to tell me this is the only way to do this.
Sam is not trying to tell me the only way to do this.
Or that it's even the right way for me.
Or it's the right way for me.
He's sharing this strictly as inspiration.
He's sharing this strictly as inspiration.
And because he's a hell of a nice guy.
And because he's a hell of a nice guy.
All right, very good.
And an affiliate. Oh, no.
Yeah. All right, so yeah, and if there are Amazon links in here, there are no affiliate links, by the way. The only link in that document that is an affiliate link is the link for the Vibe board. So there's my full disclosure and advertising. So here's what I want to do. All right, so you need to know several things, and this is going to be sort of a shotgun approach because I don't do this. This isn't a formal presentation. What I'm doing right now, my studio as it is today is probably 8th, 9th, or 10th generation. This is not where I started. Okay, so that's the first thing you have to understand. You don't go from 0 to 100. I've never seen a 1-year-old run. They first, or a newborn run. What do? They lay there. Then they learn to roll over. Then they learn to crawl. Then they learn to walk. They're continuing to fall down through all of this. And then eventually they learn to run, but they don't run well. A 2-year-old doesn't even run well. They'll trip and fall over themselves. So, this has been an ongoing project, so much so that last night I put a new camera in here just for Brian. And the camera that I put in last night was this camera. I didn't have this camera in before, but I kind of thought that was a cool angle, and I wanted to test it out. And so this camera actually is literally, this is my cell phone. So this is my cell phone. This is my normal camera. This is camera one for me. I present through camera one. And then the camera that, then I have another camera that I like to use, which is my WOW camera. And I call it my WOW camera because when I go to it, people always go,
wow.
And so that's this camera here.
Ooh.
And so, exactly. And so that camera just kind of shows where I am, and it shows the enormity of what I'm dealing with. Now, what you need to understand is that this isn't just for presenting. This is for selling. I don't get on a Zoom call unless I'm standing right here. Now, when I'm Saturday morning, okay, normally Saturday morning, I go to tourist study, do a little tourist study, learn a little bit. I'm right here. Now I don't put all the branding up behind me. I keep it appropriate. I don't play my demo reel or my sizzle reel before I comment, although Brian would probably encourage me to do that. But yeah, so you always got time for that sizzle reel. But I want people to know that I'm a professional. I want someone to have confidence in hiring me. I don't lose sales. If we get them on a call, they either don't book a speaker or they book me, because I've got this behind me. Because when we get on a call, this is what it might look like. Or it'll have their logo over there. Or it might have their logo behind me, depending on what that call is. And so this for me this is not just for presenting. This is my office. I do work here. And at the same time, anytime I'm on a sales call, anytime I'm on Zoom, it's in here. Occasionally, if it's something really casual, I'll pull out a laptop or something and do it upstairs. But if I'm going to do it on a laptop or an iPad, I have a couple of requirements. One, I still have to have good light on my face. Two, the camera has to be eye level, period. The camera has to be eye level. The number one sin in a virtual world is when the camera is lower than your eyes. I do not want to look up your nose. I don't. And no one else does either. And so the camera better be eye level. Now my camera, all right, so I'm just giving you, I'm shotgunning some stuff. I'm going to, let me show you what I have and how I use it. And then we can ask questions. We can talk about your setup. We can do whatever you want. So I'm going to reach up here, and I got a 15-foot HDMI cable that I pulled out last night and put on this so that, let's see, so that we could do this. This is sort of new to the setup. There we go. That's pretty cool. Let's see if, well, now here's the other thing. This is a virtual world, and things.
Maybe Brad Cochran could help you.
Yeah, reboot. No, I just want to get this camera to work because.
Have you tried
Believe
turning
me, if
everything
this
off?
doesn't work,
and then
I
turning it
have
back
other.
on?
Well, something just went goofy. Well, okay, the heck with that. All right, first lesson in a virtual studio. Have a plan B. All right. So here's what, let's see. All right. So here's what's in here. Right here is a teleprompter. I love my teleprompter. I record a lot of content that I put out for the what I founded this year was the Accountability Institute and Certified Accountability Advisor. I'm taking all 11 of my current books and turning them into, and build out a certification program. Right here, you'll see I have my little note. What are you focusing on right now? That's just trying to help me stay focused on what it is I'm supposed to focus on. I've got a big old, I don't know, I think it's a 42-inch Samsung curved screen. There's benefits to that, and there's minuses as well. My camera is right above the screen. When I'm presenting, I'm not looking at you, I'm looking at the camera. Now, sometimes I'll look down, but for the most part, I want to look into the camera. You'll see over here, this is a Rodecaster Pro, and this is what I control my sound through. This is a Elgato Stream Deck. We'll talk about that. This is what allows me, literally, I can, in one button, do all sorts of things. If I press this button, it's going to bring iMessage up on the screen. If I press this button, it's going to bring WhatsApp up on the screen. If I'm doing a program in Saudi Arabia, they're going to communicate with me over WhatsApp. I need to be able to see offline what's going on while I'm speaking. So this button brings it up. When you have a screen that's this big, look at all those windows. You know, stuff gets lost. I'm just not that good. So I need to be able to one button. If I'm going to go live stream on LinkedIn, if I hit this button here, it'll tweet automatically. I'm about to live stream on LinkedIn. Join me, and it'll provide the link. All I have to do is press this one button. This may be one of the greatest things. They ought to get a Nobel Peace Prize for this. This is called an Elgato, E-L-G-A-T-O. It's in the sheet that I gave you the link. It's a Stream Deck. If it's something you're interested in, get the biggest one you can get because you'll use all those buttons. I switch between my cameras with this. Don't pay attention to that name. That's just the stand. But this is an ATEM Mini Extreme ISO. There are different versions of this. I got the biggest one. This is the third one I've owned. I started with the 4, that it had 4 inputs, and I went to 8, and then I added the capability of recording while I present. So this, the ISO version on this allows me to, while I'm presenting to you, record the entire program and record all 8 inputs separately. What does that mean? It means that afterwards I can go back and re-edit the whole thing. So I record, it also records all my audio channels. So it'll record from my mic, which is right here, but there's also a mic in that camera. Guess what? A week ago, I did a keynote for someone, a recorded keynote, this mic was muted. For some reason, it was muted from something I did, but the mic on this camera is hot. It's always hot. And it feeds not to the camera, but it feeds through my Rodecaster. So the quality of the sound is bumped up. And then anyway, long story short, I had an audio track that I could use and I didn't have to reshoot the video. I got a laptop over here. Laptop controls the whiteboard behind me. I've got an iPad over there. That iPad, you're getting dizzy now, controls this board right here. Whatever's on that iPad goes to this board. And then over here is my production monitor. So this shows on the left side, you'll see 8 little windows. 2 of them are dark. Those 8 windows show my 8 inputs. The upper right-hand corner is what is going out live over Zoom. And then below that is just some other information, audio soundtrack, if I'm recording or not recording. But I can look over here and I can double check what you're getting. And it's maybe
Sam,
it's a production confidence monitor more than anything else.
Sam, what's driving that monitor?
That monitor is plugged into this Blackmagic ATEM Mini Extreme.
And that requires a higher one than just the basic, higher level ATEM Mini than just the basic one in order to have
the production monitor. Great question. So the production monitor, I'm gonna put this back over here, and you don't need to see me like that. And then I'll answer these questions. So this monitor is just a 32-inch TV. You know, I just went to Best Buy and I bought the cheapest HD TV I could buy, and it plugs in the back. And I don't care which ATEM you have, whether it's the ATEM Mini, the ATEM Mini Pro, the ATEM Mini Extreme, or the ATEM Mini Extreme ISO. they all have an HDMI output that goes into that production monitor. And so you can have a monitor and see what you're doing. The Blackmagic A10 Mini is it's a switch. It's a switcher. That's all it is a video switcher. And it allows you to switch between this look or this look. Or I have other inputs, like for instance, I'm gonna lose that cable. I have a let's go.
Sam, you
over
could cut to just your slides if you want with a button, right?
Yeah, so what I would do if I wanted to cut to just my slides, I go to that. I don't have to have myself picture in a picture. So
Do you do when you did the picture in a picture with yourself, did you do that through the A10 Mini or something else?
So the A10 Mini allows you to do picture in a picture. However, it's traditional picture in a picture, and the A10 Mini Extreme, which is more expensive, allows you to, now see, I'm using my Stream Deck to get my ATEM software back to the front since I brought other stuff. One button back to the front, and then I can do this. I'm doing that through the Extreme. That's actually 3 channels. One channel is the slide, one channel is me, and the third channel is that blue backdrop. I could have a movie play.
If I could comment quick, Don, to your point, this is the thing when I was there last week that I thought, ooh, I want to be able to do this. Because to your point is I have the A10 Mini and it shows the slide full screen and your picture-in-picture is superimposed over the slide.
Right.
And it's in the corner, but it's over the slide. And when Sam, could you show that shot again? You just had that glory shot of had your slide and you. And so I thought, oh, but to do that, there's a camera on Sam. It's showing a slide, and there's a separate channel that's got the background. And so we can't do that with A10 Mini, but we can with the more expensive version, which I will soon be buying because Sam, I want to keep up with Sam.
Yeah, that's right. And me too. I'll be right there with you. I have another question. Do you ever consider, or have you ever considered using OBS?
Okay, so for everyone on this call, OBS is a software that will allow you to do a lot of what we're doing here, and it's fantastic software actually. But there's a steep learning curve to it for most people, and so I just decided not to. Now you need to understand, I'm a Mac person. Now OBS runs both Mac and PC. I do recommend a piece of software called Ecamm Live, ECAMM. It's a powerful piece of production software. It does require a pretty good computer. You can't be using I would not recommend running it on a 6-year-old computer. I wouldn't recommend running anything on a 6-year-old computer just because of you can't take those chances. If I'm on a Mac, I'm probably going to use Ecamm Live, even though OBS is free. Ecamm has a much shorter learning curve, and I put it on the handout. Our good friend Mike Domish out of Milwaukee uses Ecamm and does. I see you, Bradford. 1 second, and does amazing things with it. It allows you to be more portable. I think Ecamm is something you can use on the road, and Ecamm is. For instance, he's been at a school. He's taken a booking. They say, "Are you available on the 18th?" And he goes, "Well, I have a commitment to a client on a virtual program. I'll come to you and do your in-person program on the 18th as long as you provide me a room that has a nice backdrop to it, like a stage that's suitable for broadcast, and an Ethernet input to your internet connection." And then he'll take his laptop, he'll take his 2 cameras, and even his wife will go with him. Karen will go with him, and they'll set up. He'll do the live program, and then he'll in-person program. Then he'll do the virtual program, and because he uses Ecamm, he's able to do that, and it looks really slick. So that was a long answer to your short question. All right, Bradford, you had your hand up.
Yes, I did. Thank you so much. So I love Zoom, using Zoom a lot. I hate switching on Zoom. What I really want is a switcher like you have, but I want to be able to switch between, say, an online, what I'm looking at, maybe a social media thing, to myself, to a PowerPoint. Do I need a separate computer, separate sources to run those through the switcher? Or
So you want to go to a website like this,
yep, and then to
this
the
professional
PowerPoint, and then
speaker's
myself.
website, who I hear is just freaking amazing. Let's see.
Those millions, Sam Silverstein was
Oh
starting
my
successful
gosh.
businesses way back in college. Since then, he's generated more than $100 million in sales. He's helped.
Well, let's jump around. Oh, look at those books. 10 books later, and oh, this guy's a best-selling author, business leader. This is just amazing. Excitement. And this is me going to work. So that is a Chromecast device that you can open up the Chrome browser, the 3 dots in the upper right-hand corner. When you click on that, you come down to the word cast, C-A-S-T. I cast to that Chromecast device, and that's one of my inputs on my ATEM. So I can take you to any website I want to take you to. I can show you the website. And Brian, the audio worked, didn't it?
That is
It
brilliant.
did, yes.
So the question that I really have though is, I'm doing a training basically between PowerPoint and myself, right? Which I can switch back and forth within Zoom. What I would really prefer though is to have a physical switcher to where I can switch between the PowerPoint, myself, perhaps something online, perhaps a different source. Bottom line question, do I need separate computers for those to feed that, or can I choose and pick my screens?
Well, your slides, I don't run my slides on my production computer. My slides are on my laptop.
Okay.
The Chrome window that I showed you, that window is open on this computer right here.
Okay.
It's right over here. Here's the Zoom window. Here's the software that runs the switcher. And here is that Chrome window that I just shared with you. So that's all on that. But my slides, I run off of a separate machine because otherwise, as soon as I open up PowerPoint, it overtakes my screen. So,
Exactly.
yeah. Now, truth be told, you can run that from an iPad. You can run that from your iPhone. You can, anything that you can get. If you're using a switcher, all you need is HDMI. So you get a little converter, you plug into your phone and your iPad. It converts it to HDMI. This right here is running from my iPad. If I wanted to change that, I could change that.
And then you can
I could run whatever slide I want to that.
And then you can choose that source.
I love the idea of doing that because I use Mentimeter, and it never occurred to me that I could cast Chrome with the Mentimeter polling into the ATEM Mini and do that switching so seamlessly. So I'd been traditionally setting up an older laptop to use for that, but this is so slick. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Hey,
I
Brad?
don't like to share my screen, so I don't open up screen share during a presentation.
Okay.
I also don't like, one second, Brian. The other thing is my clients all the time say, send us your PowerPoint, so we can get it in the system or whatever. I don't want my clients having control over anything. The fact that they have control over when they send the check is already too much. And so this way, if I want to show my slide full screen, I show it full screen. If I want to do it inset, I do it inset. I'm not, and keep in mind, all of this is off of my computer. This is all running through hardware, which is the benefit that none of what I just showed you is bogging down my computer.
Great. Thank you. I think I got my question answered.
Brian.
I was going to comment for Brad. I do exactly that. And I'm using the ATEM Mini switcher, which is the smaller version of what Sam has.
Mhm.
But I use, so again, you've got the computer that's connected to Zoom that's
Insert
showing me.
joke here.
Now, yeah, you can share your screen, but then it takes over. So I'm using 3 computers for a presentation. I have the one that connected to Zoom. I have one that's PowerPoint. And then to Don's point, I have a separate computer that is Mentimeter. And then I just go button, 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 and it's until, and then to me, my brain works that way because Sam is able to multitask better than I can. He has NASA there with his thing, but I have to be it simpler where it's like blah, 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 click slides, and I can have them see me or not see me, and then click another button in Mentimeter. So I just find it psychologically easier to use separate sources.
Yeah, and Brian, I can't believe I'm saying this publicly, but my brain works the same way as Brian's.
Oh dear.
Oh my gosh.
my
I feel
goodness.
for you.
Goodness.
You might
I
want to
think
see somebody
Ron's
about
got a
that.
hand up.
What?
Ron's got his hand up.
Okay, Ron.
Sam, thanks. My question is about the lighting. That always seems to be the challenge. Do you have a specific tool that you use to make sure that you have good lighting? Because you mentioned occasionally you'll do it in other upstairs. Do you use a light meter that a photographer uses, or how do you do that?
No, I look at the screen and see if I like it. So my lights are Elgato key lights. Look, here's, you need to understand this. I spent a lot of time early on YouTube. Everything I know, everything in this world that I know, I either learned from Brian or I learned from YouTube. Okay, this is what it's all about. So I spent a lot of time on YouTube, and what I did was I looked at streamers, because streamers are multiple years ahead of us. Okay, so like in the streamer world, I'm like a 6, which is like a 10 in the speaker world. Okay, and so so I went and studied streamers. I continue to study streamers and what their setup looks like. So I use Elgato key lights. I can control the light I can change the intensity of my lights or the brightness presets in my Stream Deck just by hitting a button. Now, I just changed the lights. I don't know if you saw this slight difference. I change them there. You see, I changed it back. I change them when I go back to the whiteboard because I need more light back there. So before I go back there, I turn the lights up and then I come back. So I just look at the lights. Like Elisa has great lights on her face. You know, I can see this. If you pin, wouldn't you just love to pin Elisa? If you pin Elisa and she's full screen, look at the light on her face. She's got a lot of natural light coming in from the window. The room is well lit. You can see her. It's not dark. It's not dingy. I don't know what do you have for lights, Elisa?
Well, I have
there you go.
oh yeah, I have a lot of natural light in this room, and this window is right next to me with the kind of translucent shade. And then I have an Elgato key light air right there.
Yeah.
Some like bar light over here with it. I can adjust the temperature on, and then, you know, I have dimmers on my overhead lights and a table lamp, so I can.
Oh, so you've put a little
day.
time and thought into this, have you?
Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly the point. And so if you look up here, this bright light, that's an Elgato key light. Those are totally adjustable. I'm running that thing right now and I can control it on my phone. I can control it from a control panel. That light is, it's at 40% of its full brightness. That's it. I mean, if I wanted to right here while I'm there, I could just blow myself out. But then I can press a button right on my Stream Deck and take it right back to where it was.
So you control the Elgatos from your Stream Deck.
I control them from my Stream Deck, from my phone, and also there's a control panel on the computer. But once you set them, I just put 2 different brightness settings on my Stream Deck and control it from there. Now, the blue lights on the wall, I have 2 RGB, that's right, RGB lights from Newer or Nuger or whatever the name of the company is. It's in the handout. They're on the floor blasting up on the wall. Now I control those from my phone. And so, so what I can do with those is, you know, I got to turn my phone on. My phone was turned off because I didn't really want it to ring during our time together here. But if I want to turn those lights on and off, boom, I can control that from here. And not only that, I can control the color. I could totally, you can see the lights come on and off. I can make those red. I can make those green. I can do whatever color I want. And that information's in the handout as well. So the reason for the color back there, look, you need to understand, this was like a 10 by 12 room. I'm thinking, Brian, isn't that about where we measured it? You see those sound tiles all the way in the back behind me, behind the screens? Now you're thinking, wow, those look nice. Well, they do. I think they look nice and they help with the sound. But behind that is a giant glass window that opens up into the office behind me where Renee sits. And so, because there's no exterior, I'm underground. I'm in the basement. And so I wanted light to come in from the other office. So I covered it with a whiteboard. First generation, I had a whiteboard back there, but the whiteboard was all glary and shiny from the lights. So what did I do? I bought some sound tiles that I thought would look good, got some Gorilla Glue and glued the tiles to the whiteboard and hung the whiteboard like a picture over that window. Nobody knows there's a window back there. The thing that Elisa does really well is it's not natural light is great light, but you saw she had something pulled down that diffuses that light. And so I was looking at someone else, some of you, the lights, okay. Kathy, we're all friends here, right? What is the light coming on the left side of you, Kathy?
Yeah, I have a spotlight pointed at me. It's kind of like a little lamp that's pointed at me.
Yeah. Okay. So you needed more light. You recognize that. It's hot though. It's a little hot.
It gets hot. It's weird. So unfortunately, I used to have an office, right? I had to come into my home. I have two huge windows here that I had to buy blackout screens for, because depending on the time of day,
right,
it blows like, yeah. So like this time of day is terrible. And I should actually like open this up a little bit more so it's not so hot. But I have to change my whole lighting setting. So I have a light up here. I have two lights over here because sometimes I have to compete against this light. And then I have a spotlight to the right of me as well.
So the only thing that I would suggest is I love your setup behind you. You have some depth. Every piece that's back there should have a purpose for being there that should connect with your business. I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm just saying that's how I would do that. And I would replace that hot light with something that's softer and like an Elgato, either a key light or they have a key light air or whatever they call it. It's a little bit less expensive that could sit on the desk. Yeah, I just don't want it so bright on your face.
Yeah.
But there's the lighting. So the answer to your question is, and the other thing is, I'm still here. I've got these little, I'm gonna put that down. I've got these little battery lights, operated lights from Litra, L-I-T-R-A. I take these with me because when I'm out of town and I have to do something in a hotel room, boom. These things are great. So it gives me portability. Next question. And you know what? Let me look at the questions that I had real quick and see. Boy, if I don't answer those, then I'm not doing my job. One, what's your experience with in-person versus virtual fees? Fees. Well, I quote the same fee whether it's live in person or live virtual. They're getting the same content. They don't have to pay me to travel. I will also tell you, we negotiate where we have to negotiate. I'm not going to be so pompous as to tell you that we don't do that. But I'm quoting the same fee now. Now, I didn't start out that way, but it's the same fee. Would be nice to know what he thinks of my new background for my virtual programs. Who submitted that question? Laura. So let me pin your background. I love your background. I would like the camera is a little high, possibly. I'd like to see maybe a little more of you. The background looks good, except the shelves look a little tilted. That top shelf looks like it's tilted a little bit, but
it's a little. So just so you know, I can tilt the camera any way I want.
Mm-hmm.
The desk so it's on a monitor that's angled, so I can move my monitor any direction.
Nice.
And then my desk that the monitor is attached to is a sit stand. So I can either sit for a presentation or I can stand.
Perfect.
And then from the angle of the camera, the way it is right now, I think the reason that it looks like if I move the monitor, the shelves, I know
Yeah,
that
it's
they're
no big
not.
deal. It's no big deal. I just get anal about stuff like that.
Well, I'm pretty
I'd
anal
rather
too,
see
but
more of you. I don't like it cut off at the neck. I want, yes. That's,
just how I have my camera for today where I'm sitting.
I
think.
understand. I
Yeah.
understand. But I want to encourage you to always have your camera where you look best. I don't care what, just doing a chapter program. Someone in your chapter could recommend you. You want to look like it's all together. I like your background. I like the little lights, the lighting in there. It does real well. Picture's a little soft. What kind of camera are you using?
Logitech.
Okay. Which one?
That's a good question.
It doesn't matter.
I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's doing a nice job. It's not quite as crisp as it could be. I'm guessing it's not a Brio, which is their HD level or
No,
their
it says
4K.
it says HD. I can't read it. 10,
Yeah.
10 something.
Yeah, 1080. That's fine.
Should
So
it be what?
it's fine. It's fine. You know, in the future, maybe you know, maybe that's the next step is maybe depending on how much work you're doing with it, you could maybe get a little crisper camera. But love the backdrop, looks great. Everything's back there has a reason, has a purpose. You could play with lights. There might be some lights up in the plant or something that could add a little texture or something like that. But it looks really great. What is the latest new piece of technology you have purchased and love for presenting for the business side of speaking, and why? Wow, latest. Well, the latest thing I just purchased was yesterday was an arm to put my second mic on, which the question was, what's the mic? It's a Rode NTG3. I use a shotgun mic because I want it out of the camera. In the handout that I provided, there's lots of ideas for mics. There's no one way to do it. I used to do wireless mics because I moved around, but doggone it, I hate charging those things. So I just said, I want some fixed mics. And I just bought something that's going to allow me to put my second Rode on an arm. So when I come back here, I can just pull the arm out and that mic will be right here instead of it being on a stand that gets in my way. The two pieces of tech that to me rock my world are this ATEM Mini Extreme ISO and my Vibe board. That board to me is I love it. So, you know, it's not cheap. I think it was $3,000. It's not inexpensive. And I'm not a guy that normally uses a whiteboard, but doggone it, I just need to be able to mix things up. I need to change it around. We're not on a stage. I can't work the audience. There's so many things that have been taken away from us. So I have to create something that's going to allow me to mix it up a little bit. Now, you need to know that board also causes me my biggest headache. And the biggest headache is because it's a low ceiling, I can't get the lights up real high, and the lights tend to reflect in there, and it looks like crap when it does that. So both of those screens are turned at the only angles that they can be at to work. If I move that screen an inch, I got a headache. So
it's very cool. That was the first thing that really got my attention on your tech was the screen. And I always, thank you. I always put back there, welcome Bill, welcome Tom. I mean, when I go into a meeting, that's what it's going to look like. Okay. It's always going to be that. And I might have their branding over here, but you know, people, I guarantee you, every time I get on a Zoom call with somebody, the first thing that happens is they laugh. They laugh. And I'm like, what are you laughing at? Like, are you laughing at me? They go, you got my name back there. I says, yeah, well, welcome. You know, it's nice to connect. Let me tell you, the rapport is established right from the get-go. And so, yeah, I have 2 client meetings coming up this week, and I'm trying to figure out how to do exactly that right now. Thank you for the idea.
My pleasure. Okay, next question. Are those round lights really necessary? Are they just a gimmick? I hate ring lights. I do not like ring lights. I don't like the little circles that show up on your glasses or in your pupils. I wouldn't use them unless the only successful use I've seen of them is people will turn them away and bounce them off the wall. But I just don't like ring lights. I want natural lighting. So I don't like ring lights. Next question, interested in thoughts on person versus virtual versus hybrid going forward. I don't know. Bottom line is the virtual work is here to stay. I've done a huge amount of business overseas with a client this year that said, isn't it great that we can do this virtually? And my answer was, yes, it is, and so I love the virtual. I love the in-person as well. The hybrid events, my concern with hybrid is when they dummy down the in-person to make it work for a hybrid. If I'm showing up, do not dummy it down. And so like the CSP summit that's coming up for CSPs and CPAEs, we built it around being there in person. There's some people that requested a virtual. They have a virtual, but I'm not eliminating anything from the personal to in-person version for the virtual. I don't know where we are time-wise. Denise, help me out. I probably went long earlier and
we've got about, no, you're doing a great job. We have about 5 to 7 minutes before we flip to some chapter announcements. So we still got about 5 to 7 minutes for people.
So yes, I see Ron.
My question is one that Mark also had, and that's your earphones. That's so. What are those connected to? Because you've got, almost every device has its own built-in microphone. So tell us about your headset.
Let me tell you something. This is maybe one of the least expensive things I have. Are these in-ear monitors, and this rocks my world. This is like the most important thing in here. And so the links are on the handout. And so you buy the headset, it's got to be Bluetooth, and then you buy the Bluetooth receiver, and I have it into the monitor out that's on my Rodecaster Pro. So you could put it on, you could hook it into these earphone jack in a computer, wherever the audio can come out from. The reason these are so great is because you're in my ear, you're in my head. The sound is crystal clear. And especially when I'm dealing with overseas where they're speaking English, but they have a huge accent. When I have it over the speakers, it's just not good. And this, you know what? This looks professional. People expect this. You see it on news people, you see it on broadcasters all the time. So these are amazing. They're amazing. First of all, I don't want a wire hanging down, so I'm not going to use some wired earbuds. I could put AirPods in and use those, but they're just so obtrusive. And I just feel like this looks professional.
Yeah.
And it's part of the look, and the function is amazing. Next question.
I'm just going to make a comment on your PowerPoint that, so often you have like one background, one template, and, the 10 slides. And I noticed some of yours were white backgrounds, some were black. You didn't use purples and greens too much. You're in your brand, but I just noticed that and found that refreshing. That's part of keeping things fresh.
Well, thank you. And nobody knows more about creating amazing PowerPoint than Mr. Brian Walter. But I will tell you, so we created the Accountability Institute, and all the materials that we've created for the people that want to earn their Certified Accountability Advisor certification, participant workbooks, facilitation guides, and all the PowerPoint. And so we invested in having amazing, what I like to think is amazing PowerPoint. And we wanted to up our game. It's got to look professional. Look, at the end of the day, as a speaker, I feel like that the content I'm delivering is transformative. And I want to be able to charge a great fee. So that means I need great content. I need great delivery. I need great marketing materials. When I show up, the PowerPoint better be great. Everything's got to be great. And so I appreciate that you noticed that, Denise. That means a lot to me. Thank you.
I sure did. Does anybody want to
Linda
share?
raised her hand.
Oh, great, great.
So I would love kind of some quick feedback on my lighting. Brian has actually been helping me in the background. I do have an Elgato, but I only have one, and I think I need a second one. I had a little lamp over here, and he had me backlight or uplight or whatever you call it back there.
Yeah.
To put it in context, I do not do keynotes. I do training, and because I'm a CPA training on tax return analysis, for me, my people, it needs to be a little less powered up, right? It needs to be more accessible so that they're comfortable with me. So I don't need it to look like a keynote setup, but I still want the lighting to be good. And then what I have behind me, I give people Lego toys when they win. So everything that's on my bookshelf almost is Lego toys that fits in with my stuff. So it's a lot more casual, but I think it fits my brand and my purpose, except I want the lighting to be good.
So the lighting on your face is good. I think you have lighting on the wall behind you. Is that correct?
I just put it there just now, Brian. So I took the little lamp that was right here and facing me. I moved it. The Elgato is as bright as it will go, although the temperature's in the mid-range. And then I went ahead and turned on the overhead light, or the three things I just did.
Yeah, so
like
my
it's
overhead
bright,
is
but too
fluorescent
dark.
tubes, and it's terrible if I put that on. I think I think the lighting on your face is pretty good. I'd love your camera to be lowered ever so slightly.
Well, okay.
Yeah,
So
I
actually
like
the
that.
camera itself,
I like
or
what I like. See, yeah, your eye level, that's good. I think that what's behind you could potentially be dressed up a little bit, and I think you
too
could
busy, right?
It's not that it's too busy, but there could be some lights. It's just kind of, I'm looking over your right shoulder. It's dark and dingy in the corner. You know, what if there was an uplight back there that was kind of red or something? I don't know. I'm just, but I'll tell you where I would, Linda, what I would go to is in the handout, go to where it says YouTube Home Studio Setup Videos, and it says Live Streaming Pros, and there's two links. The first one is the channel. The second one is just a particular video. Go look at her stuff. She has got her newer stuff because she's got some. I'm going. She's got a great setup. Now, I'm not saying your setup should be like hers, but it'll just inspire you. She has a video, her name is Laurel or something like that. She has a video where she built the studio. Find the video where she built the studio, not because you want to replicate hers, but you want to hear what her thought process was and how she did it. And then you take that thought process and make it relevant for you.
Okay, I just moved my uplight to point a little bit more to my.
Right. I just
I'll
think
play
that
with that, but thank you for all those.
it could be more modern, more interesting back there.
Yep.
Great. Okay. Okay. What else?
I think you should, one final question from Linda. Then I think you should remind us and challenge us to pick something that we can do to make this more actionable for us. And then remind us when we're going to see you again and what format that takes.
Well, you will remind everybody when you're going to see me again.
I'll remind you too.
I couldn't tell you what I'm doing right after this call without looking at a calendar. So,
so Linda's got
yeah.
one
So
final
here's
comment.
Here's the thing. So, no matter what the two constraints that I find, the biggest constraints for us are space and money. And I'm not going to spend your money. You have to decide what's worth spending money on and what's not worth spending money on. And where do you find your space? I got a friend in South Africa who took his cars out of the garage, built a curved wall in there, and built a complete studio in his garage. I know people who've done all kinds of crazy things. This is our livelihood. So your space is your space. You have to figure it out. But Are you going to improve your space? Are you going to improve your lighting? Are you going to improve your camera angle? Are you going to look at what's behind you? I'm only seeing one virtual. It looks like I think Carla, you have a green screen. Well, you look really good in front of that backdrop. Is that a virtual backdrop?
No, it's my
Okay.
office with all my stuff in it.
So, you know, no wonder it looks so freaking amazing. I'm like, wow, she's got that virtual back. You know, it's funny. It looks good. I don't know. I can't tell you how many people say, is that a virtual background? I'm like, no. And so if you do it right and it's well lit, then it doesn't look virtual. So I love that it looks great. So at any rate, what are you going to do to improve your setup? I've mentioned several things. There's several areas to think about. I don't particularly like the, if you can green screen and do it right, that's fine. But I don't like the electronic virtual backgrounds. They don't look good. The outline on you doesn't look good. That's just my opinion. But what are you going to do to up your game? And then we've got a time set, and I'll show up at whatever time that is. I'll be happy to look at your setup. I'll give you my frank opinion, and any suggestions that I have, you can ask questions, and we'll try to up everyone's game, because you know what? Even I can up my game. I'll tell you, I don't know if you notice this, the lighting on my face is different with black on that screen than when there's white on that screen. And so that's why I tend not to like light slides, or if I'm going to use light slides, I tend to like to go to it in this format, because it just, it changes the aperture of the camera. So there's all little things that we can always be working on and improving. And at the next meeting, we'll see how we can help everyone improve their game.
Let's give a round of applause and a standing ovation for Sam. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Oh,
Thank
absolutely
you.
incredible. And that hour that we're going to spend with Sam is December 2nd from 6 to 7 p.m.